Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. I've just been really busy the past couple of weeks, but I'm back with another video, and today we're continuing on with the Warframe Solo Steel Path series. And today we're going to look at Arena. I am currently on the road to 300 subs, so if you are new around here, you enjoy this video or enjoy the content on my channel, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And let's get into it. Okay, so in terms of missions, there are 3 different arena missions on Sedna: Naki, Yam, and Vodunoi, each of which have increasing levels. So, as you saw there, Yam and Vodunoi need judgment points. Now, these are pretty much the tokens which are awarded upon completion of these arena missions. So, Naki being the first one, doesn't require any judgment points to enter, but upon completion, and you win, you will get 10 judgment points, which you can then put into Yam, and upon completion of this one, you will get 15 judgment points, which you can then put into Vodunoi, and upon completion of this one, you will get 25 judgment points. Now, the mission itself is basically an extermination race, so it's first to 25 kills. So, if you fail, however, you will not get those judgment points back that you put in. So you put 10 into Yam, you fail this mission, i.e. the opposition reached 25 kills first, then you will not get those 10 judgment points back. However, in terms of failing the mission, it only counts when the opposition team reach 25 kills. So, this means that if they're on 24 and you think you're going to lose, you can abort the mission and you will get those points back. Unlike if they got 25 kills and you lost them. So, in terms of the enemies, obviously, they're going to scale off the amount of people in the mission. So, because this is a solo guide, you'll be solo. And so, you'll be against 2 enemies. However, there can be modifiers in this mission, which can change that. Which we're going to go through now. Okay, so, in every arena mission that you start, as you can see on screen, you will get 1 of 11 of the different modifiers. Some of which can be beneficial, like quick respawn and the speed boost, whilst others can be non-beneficial, like health drain, tougher enemies, reinforcements, things like that. However, some non-beneficial modifiers can be flipped in your favour, like reinforcements. On your own, you will be against 2 other enemies. And so once you kill one, you'll be looking to find the other one, which might take a bit of time, because it's only 1 enemy. However, with reinforcements, you're now going to be against 6 enemies. And, for example, if you're using an invis frame, you're not really going to be shot at by a lot of people, so the number of enemies doesn't matter in that point. But once you kill 1, you're now only going to be looking for 5 enemies opposed to 1. Which is going to make it a bit easier to look for the enemies, but also it's going to make you getting to 25 kills in total a lot quicker. Some non-beneficial modifiers, like tougher enemies, which increase armor depending on the level of the enemies, can be a bit annoying, but can also be bypassed in some ways, which we'll now go through when we look at the operator focus school. So in terms of operator focus school, there's only one option here, and that is going to be Unairu. Because although we are going to be casting, in the mission there are spawn points for energy orbs, but also we're going to have quite a bit of efficiency on our builds, which means the orbs are going to be enough. We do not need anything like Arcane Energize, or Xenurix, Hard Spring, and Wellspring. So, because of course, these enemies are very high level, they're going to have a lot of armor, and although they are Grineer, they're also going to have shields. But also in the modifier of tougher enemies, that sort of armor increase isn't going to matter here, because we've got Caustic Strike here, which is going to strip their armor completely, make them easier to kill. But also our Magnetic Flare is because these Grineer enemies have shield. So, that is the focus score that we're going to use. Now we're going to go into the builds. Okay, so, in terms of the frames that we're going to be using, the first set we're going to go through is the invis frames, more specifically Ash and Loki. So, the build for these both are the same. Now, there is a slight difference which we'll go through when we go through Loki's as well. But for the Aura mod, we have Steel Charge, which is going to give us a lot of mod capacity and also extra melee damage, which is going to be nice when killing the enemies. Then we have Prime Continuity with Constitution, Nearest Hatred, Augur Message, and Narrow-Minded for ability duration. Fleeting Expertise and Streamline for ability efficiency. Now, although Fleeting Expertise does have negative ability duration, because we have so much in all these mods here, it doesn't really affect us that much. And then we have Steel Drift for a bit of enemy radar, because we have a bit of mod capacity left, and Prime Sure-Footed to avoid getting knocked down. Now, of course, if you have normal Sure-Footed, put that on as well, but the chance will not be 100% for that. Then in terms of Arcanes, I'm not going to equip any for the mission because you don't need any, but of course, if you do have some, you can slap ones on whichever you think are going to be the best for you. So, now we're going to take a look at Loki's build. So, Loki's build is a little bit different in terms of the aura mod that we're going to be using. In this one, it is enemy radar, because instead of stealth drift, it gives us a lot more enemy radar, and it has a narrow mod polarity by default, which means we do not need to form at this slot. And then everything else is pretty much the same. Narrow-minded, Prime Continuity, Nearest Hatred, Augur Message, and Constitution for ability duration, and then Streamline and Fleeting Expertise for ability efficiency. And then because we have 5 left, you could put a partially upgraded Vitality on if you really wanted to, or something along those lines, although you do not really need it. Then in terms of Arcanes, again, same as Ash, we do not need any, but of course if you have any, you can slap those on, it is fine. So, with those invis frames out of the way, let's get into the next frame that we're going to be using. So, our next frame of choice is going to be Revenant. Now, the reason being, his Mesmer skin makes him a tank, and he's literally immune to anything. So, I know I do have Eclipse on this build, but you do not need this, and in the mission, I will not be using this at all to show you that we're only relying on his Mesmer skin. So, first of all, we have enemy radar. Now, again, this is going to make the enemies easier to find and allow us to get our 25 kill target a lot quicker. Then we have Umbral Intensify, Transient Fortitude, Power Drift, and Augur Secrets for our ability strength, and increase the number of charges on our Mesmer skin to 14. Now, the reason we're not using Blind Rage on this build is because it does negate some efficiency, and we really do need that efficiency if we're going to maintain our ability casting in line with the 25 energy we get from the orbs, without increasing that through Xenuric's Wellspring or Arcane Energize. So, then we have Streamline and Fleeting Expertise for ability efficiency. Prime Sure-Footed to resist knockdown. Again, just slap the normal one on if you don't have primed. And then we have Rolling Guard. Now, the reason being, when we recast Mesmer Skin, in that short amount of time that we're recasting, we are vulnerable to any sort of damage. So Rolling Guard is going to make it so that we roll, we're immune to anything for however many seconds you have, and then it will allow you to recast your Mesmer Skin. Now, if you do not have a maxed or near enough maxed Rolling Guard, then you can swap out Power Drift, since it's only 15% efficiency, for Natural Talent to increase your casting speed. But in terms of Arcanes, again, you don't need any, but if you have some, slap those on. But that is the build. Now we're going to look at one final frame. Okay, so the fourth and final frame that we're going to go through is Limbo. Now, what we're going to be doing is using his Cataclysm and Stasis to stop the enemies doing anything. Move, shoot, attack, anything. Now, because we are going to be using 2 abilities in Cataclysm and Stasis, unlike 1 in the other 3 frames I mentioned, we are going to be using Energy Siphon for passive energy, opposed to enemy radar. Now, it shouldn't make a massive difference. You can hear the enemies, you know, things like that. Then we have Prime Continuity with Narrow-Minded, Constitution, and Augur Message for our ability duration. Prime Sure-Footed again to resist knockdown. fleeting expertise and streamline for our efficiency, and then a bit of range just because we want to be able to group a couple enemies together and be able to kill them that way to increase the amount of kills that we get in a specific time to reach that 25 kill target quicker. Now, again, arcanes, you don't really need anything. If you do have some and you want to put them on, go for it. But that is the build. Now, a quick disclaimer, you ideally want to use this build when you don't have the reduced ability duration modifier, because if you do, your duration for these abilities go down substantially and it makes it less efficient really to kill the enemies and things. So only use this build when you have any other modifier except for reduced ability duration. But with that said, now let's get into the weapons that we're going to be using. Okay, so I'm going to go with a status and condition overload build. So for the secondary weapon, I have got a Kuva Nukor. Now I would recommend some sort of Kuva or Tenet weapon, just because you have the ability to put an extra element on top of the ones you have on your build. So this one was a radiation one. Now the build for this, we have Gunslinger and Anemic Agility for fire rate, just so we can get as much sort of chance to proc different status types on the target. We have Lethal Torrent and Barrel Diffusion for multi-shot plus the fire rate from Lethal Torrent. Then we have Jolt, Frostbite and Pistol Pestilence for our different elements to create gas and magnetic. And also we get the plus 60 chance for more 3 to give us an extra 180% status chance, giving us a total of 140. And then we also have Perpetual Agony, increase the amount of time that those status procs are on the target. Pistol Ammo Mutation, I mean, you don't really need it, but you can put it on there if you want. And then Arcanes, you don't need this either. But that is the build that we're running for the secondary weapon. Now, on screen now, you can see another build, which gives 4 different types of, or 4 different elements that you can proc onto the target. Meaning that you need to have a Kuva Nukor or Kuva or Tenet weapon with magnetic already on there as your progenitor element. And then the rest is of course the same, but you get the extra element that you can proc onto the target and deal more damage with the condition overload. So that is the build. Now we're going to move on to the weapon. Okay, so the melee that we're going to use alongside the Nukor is going to be the Nikana Prime. Now, you don't need the Nikana Prime as long as you have a weapon that has decent slash and overall damage. With this build, you should be able to complete the mission. Now, the stance mod can be whatever you want. It's just to add to our mod capacity. Then we have Condition Overload, which is going to give us that extra melee damage per status type that we afflict the target with. We have Sacrificial Steel to buff our critical chance, Gladiator Might and our Organ Shatter for critical damage, which brings us to 6 times. Then we have Fever Strike paired with Vicious Frost to give us the viral, and this is going to add another stack to our Condition Overload, but also it's going to boost our damage when targets are affected by viral anyway. And then we have Primed Pressure Point for overall damage buff. Now, stupidly, I put a Visarion Former on here, which doesn't allow me to put anything else on, but if you wanted, you could put something else on, like Prime Smite Grenier to just do more damage against that, or you could put on Primed Fury or Fury to increase the DPS and try and kill them quicker. But that is the build. Now we're going to look at some gameplay. that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed and found it useful. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.
Catch me if I fall.